Hello everyone, Kitten here with a new ghost story. It's been a while since I'd done one, and I figured I'd start off this weekend with a new one. I know a lot of you have been anticipating, so I'm here to deliver. Today, I'm going to talk about an experience I had at camp when I was 4 or 5 years old. Annually, we'd go with my uncle to this camp up in the mountains. I loved going there because of the huge tent he had there with a pretty large campfire nearby. Big enough for 30 people, and boy did that fire keep us warm during the early autumn. We did a lot for the week we'd spend up there. Quick hike in the morning after breakfast, a dip in the lake in the early afternoon, which, by the way, that lake was huge. I remember one of the ways to get to the lake, if you were brave enough, was to jump off the huge cliff that loomed over it. Back then, before developing my crippling fear of heights, I'd jump off that bad boy with a smile so wide I'd catch bugs in my teeth on the way down. What made the jump even more dangerous was that you'd have to land perfectly between these two large slabs of rock that were highly visible in the clear blue water. No one knew exactly how deep they were under the surface, but it was deep enough that if you landed over one of them, you'd more than likely shatter one of your feet. Moving on from the lake, we'd have a nice lunch, hang around in the tent, playing childish games, or coloring in our coloring books and having a grand old time. When it got dark, however, that's when it was the most fun. At least for me. We'd get the fire going, the marshmallows and hot dogs out on our sticks, and we'd all gather around for our nightly ghost stories. My uncle would always have a plethora of scary stories to tell when the fire was at its brightest. That particular year, he told us a story about a character called Freddy, I think it was. What exactly caused him to be so freaky, I don't remember, but what I do remember is that he supposedly hung around the woods we were camping in. They'd say that you see him dancing between the trees, his bloodshot eyes, accompanied by a deranged smile, would glimmer in the darkness. The only way to ward off Freaky Freddy, he told us, is to keep a flashlight on and stay in your tent. If you wander out of your tent into the darkness, he gets you! Another one of my uncles would scream as he'd grab you by the shoulders, causing you to nearly wet your pants. It would be a fun night for everyone. Except for me, after the fire went out. We were all getting pretty tuckered out, but being as superstitious as I was back then, the story wouldn't leave my mind. I was restless that night, couldn't sleep at all. Now, the one thing I forgot to mention about this huge tent was that the quote-unquote front porch, I guess you could call it, had a bug net surrounding it, and that's where me and my brother slept. The adults were more inside on the upper level of it. This whole thing was made of wood and lycra. It was basically a 2-floor house tent. Now, because of the bug net, we were able to see outside without having to open anything. It was translucent, is what I was trying to say. So here I am, lying next to my sleeping brother, everyone else inside snoozing as well, and I'm tossing and turning because of that night's story. The fact that I could see into the dark forest didn't help in the least. I wanted to go inside, thinking I could probably sleep better, but that would mean I'd leave my older brother to the hands of whatever decrepit thing may be lurking out into the forest. So I stayed, scared and uneasy, trying my best to sleep. Just when I was about to drift off into slumberland, I heard a bit of a rustling in the bushes near the campfire. Scared, I switched on my flashlight, pointing it in the direction of where the noise was coming from. I saw something dodge into one of the bushes next to a tree. I kept thinking to myself, holy shit, it's him! It's him, it's Freaky Freddy. So remembering what my uncle told me, I kept my flashlight on and pointed it in front of me, not daring to leave the tent. That's when I saw him, or at least, I think I was so scared that I hallucinated seeing him. The bloodshot eyes, the deranged smile, the coarse black hair hanging in front of his face. Freaky Freddy, dancing like a monkey between the trees, not breaking eye contact with me. The sweat on his face shimmered in the light of my flashlight. I couldn't even scream. I just stared at him in absolute horror. That's when I saw him sprinting at me. Finally, a screech escaped my tiny throat, crying for my mom, my uncles, my cousins. Hell, I was even screaming for my brother to wake the hell up so we could all get out of there. Next thing I remember, though, is just blacking out after several seconds of calling out to everyone. I woke up the next morning drenched in sweat and, I think, urine. My family was outside the tent making breakfast on the fire. I ran inside, changed, then came back out, still very shaken from the previous night. My mom was the first to see me, and she walked up to me asking why I screamed and woke everyone up last night. Apparently my screams were so loud that everyone woke up in a panic, wondering what the hell was going on. By the time they got out to go see what was wrong, I was passed out on the floor next to my makeshift bed. They brushed it off as me having a nightmare and falling off in the process. Honestly, I think it was just a nightmare. Only I was definitely awake. When I told my uncle that Freaky Freddy attacked me that night, he laughed and said he wasn't real, that he made it up the day before the trip and was really pleased that he got to someone with such a tale. I begrudgingly left along with him, but as compensation, they'd let me sleep more inside the place than out. Mom took my place next to my brother on the front step for the rest of the week. I was glad to get the hell out of there, though. I never went on a camping trip with them after that, and after a while, the trip seemed to have stopped being a thing. To this day, though, I still wonder, if Freaky Freddy isn't real, who or what did I see that night?